Thanks for joining us. I'm Gabe with Backwoods Pursuit. Today we're going to show you how to set up the sight tape on a Spot Hogg sight. This one here is the Spot Hogg Fast Eddy XL, but setting up the Spot Hogg sight tape is similar on this one and a lot of the other Spot Hogg sights out there. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a step-by-step process here. It's really pretty easy. If you like our content, we really do appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button for us, and make sure you hit that bell notification as well so you're notified when we upload new videos. Check out our website, backwoodspursuit.com, for other gear reviews, and check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and go give us a follow over there. If you like the content we're putting out, we really appreciate it. Let's go get started. Alright, so your first step is to make sure you've got the Spot Hogg sight mounted properly. I've got a video, I'll put a card up there for you on how to do that, how to make sure you've got your second and third axis set properly. That's critical before you go to this step. Then what we're going to do is go sight in one of the pins. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. I'm going to do the bottom pin, and I'm going to sight in for 20 yards. I'm going to move my dial to sight in that bottom pin for 20 yards. And then once I've got 20 yards, I'll move out to 60 and find that gap, and then I'll go through the sight tape selection process. So I'll first sight in here at 20. It looks to be right about on the money. I'll shoot one more just to make sure. Alright, so we're good at 20. Alright, so I got that dialed at 20. I'll grab my sight tapes here from Spot Hogg, and I cut out one of the calibration scales. You can see it comes with 3 of them there on the bottom. So I cut out one of them here, and you'll see on the top of that, if that'll focus for you, there's a 20-yard mark right on the very top. So what I'm going to do, since I sighted in my bottom pin here for 20 yards, I'm going to put that, or line up that 20-yard marker with that purple pin right there. Alright, so I threw that on, and that is what that looks like. So now we've got that 20-yard indicator pointing on that pin there, the purple pin. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and flip my lever here. I'm going to move this down and work my way out to 60 yards. I'm going to experiment a little bit. I don't want to necessarily jump from 20 to 60 yards unless you know really where your bow shoots. That way you're not losing arrows or damaging arrows. So you work your way out just a little bit at a time. I will do that. I'll work my way out to 60 off camera so I don't get this video too long, but then I'll flip back on here once I get out to 60. Alright, so now out at 60. Alright, so that looks pretty good, so I'll run back to the shop and we'll get the tape installed. Alright, so I came back to the shop here, and I want to give you a close-up of what this calibration scale looks like. You can see when we were out the range, I started at 20 yards, and that 20-yard marker is up here on the top where you can't see, and sighted that bottom pin in here at 20 yards by moving this dial. And then once I got that dialed, I put this calibration scale on like I showed you, and then dialed this down to somewhere in these sight tapes and worked my way to where I got it dialed in. And so this little orange, or this little purple marker here is pointing to one of these lines, and that tells us which sight tape. There's some really small numbers here on the side that you probably can't read very well, and there's actually 30-some sight tapes the Spot Hogg gives you here that correspond with that indicator there. So this is lining up for sight tape number 19 for me on what I just did. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'll show you how to install sight tape number 19 on my case to this, so that we are dialed in, our sight tape is all set. Alright, here's the sight tapes for Spot Hogg. You got numbers 1 through, I think there's 30 something on here, 36 of them, or 40 actually. So I'm finding sight tape number 19 right here. That's the one that corresponded with the work that we just did out on the range. So go ahead and cut this out. You want to make sure you cut it out real precisely, so that you get a nice clean adhesion on your sight tape area there. So cut this out, and then we'll go ahead and stick this right on the sight when we're done here. Cut out the bottom. Alright, now I've got number 19 cut out, right, like I did right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull the calibration scale off of what we just did. Now it's important when you're doing this, you don't want to move your indicator here, because that's pointing to where our 60-yard marker is, and we're going to use that to get our next sight tape number 19 here installed. So we got the calibration scale off, and you'll notice here, if you cut out the entire sight tape, it's a little bit wider than the area right here. So you don't want that to hang over, because that'll just peel off on you. So what you have the option of doing is cutting off one side or the other. So depending on what your preference is, if you want that indicator to point like that, you can cut off this side over here, or if you would rather have the indicator point right at those marks like that, you can cut off this side over here. So I think what I'm going to do, I kind of like the look of this right here, so I'm going to cut off this side, and then I'll install the sight tape. I'll go ahead and just trim off this side that I don't want, so that tape will adhere perfectly onto that wheel. That way it doesn't have a chance of coming off, catching one of those edges and coming off. Alright, so we got sight tape number 19 ready to go. I trimmed up that edge. I'm going to go ahead and pull the sticky off the back here, and we'll get this installed. Now you want to make sure that you get this right underneath and lined up perfectly with that purple marker. And so you want to make sure you get this real precise when you do it, so that you don't have an inaccuracy. But once you get that, go ahead and lay it down, lay the sticky part down. That easy, right there and right there. And now you are set. So we've got that indicating our 60-yard mark right there. That's where we left it. So now that we've done that, we can see now by moving this down, you will be marked at right there 20 yards, or you're 20 all the way out to 100 there. And then if you even want to go farther, you can make your own sight tape just as much as, or as far as your sight will allow before you have arrow clearance or clearance issues. So you're all set to go. So now it's time to go and test that out to make sure that you got it right. Sometimes you'll do this and for whatever reason you made a mistake, or you thought you were dialed in but you weren't. So go ahead and test it all out. Test out each of the yardages. If you're comfortable testing out to 80, 90, 100, it's good to do that. That'll really tell you if you have any discrepancies at some of the shorter yardages as well. I'll usually go ahead and leave this at the 60-yard marker, and the reason I'll leave it there is because I know that bottom pin is set for 60 yards. I've already indicated that's my floater. I've got my 60-yard pin as my floater, so I set that at 60, and if I need to go lower, I'll just go ahead and do that. And we got plenty of clearance down to 100 or more if you want to, and depending on your bow setup. So that's how that works. Alright, so that is how you install the Fast Eddie XL sight tape. Don't hesitate to drop a comment or question down there if you have any follow-up questions, anything we can help you with. We're happy to do that. We'll respond to those questions. I'll also put a link in the description to this Fast Eddie XL sight for you if you want to check it out for yourself. Thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you next time.